Okay, here we go then, Sam. This is going to be a bit of fun. We are here on the Championship Check-In podcast, and we are going to pick our team of the season so far. Now, I'll get the caveats and the brief and the rules out of the way straight away. So the first thing I'll say, it's a bit of fun, for God's sake. Don't take it seriously. Before your thumb's itching to go, why haven't you included so-and-so? Don't do that. Do this instead. Sit down and make your own 11 of Championship players. You're going to add a manager as well. Here's the important thing, Sam, and people get very upset and emotional about this, and they tend to be very selfish fans of teams that have got loads of good players. 2 players maximum from a team, and the reason we do that is because obviously with the hierarchy in the Championship, we could literally make a team out of Southampton, Leicester and Leeds players. They've got way more good players and way more money than everybody else. So we are going to do 2 players from a team. And frankly, if you've got a problem with that, I don't care, because that's what we're doing. Sam, we're going to do a 4-2-3-1 formation, which we can tweak to a 4-3-3, however you see fit. And just a quick prediction, Sam. I don't know your team. You don't know mine. How many do you think we're going to agree on out of 11?
I reckon 1, 2, 3 more. 7, it's got to be. Minimum 7, okay. Possibly 8.
Oh, wow. Okay. Goalkeeper, Sam. I wanted to go for Hermansen, but I didn't want to use up my Leicester picks. I think a £6 million goalkeeper with a high save percentage who comes into the back four is probably the guy. But I've gone with the data and the clean sheets. I've gone for Palmer of West Brom. What's your take?
I'm so conflicted already. I mean, honestly, it's between those 2. Yeah, for the reasons that you've stated. Best save percentage, I think you just said, and goals prevented, Hermansen.
Brilliant, yeah.
Definitely, you would say with the ball at his feet. Do you know what? I'm going to stick with my instinct. And my instinct, because I'm struggling at centre-half, I'm going to go for Palmer again. Yeah. And I know that he's so well protected, but I've been a big fan of his continually. I think he's probably part of the best defence, maybe, and the 12 clean sheets definitely is a team effort. It's not all about him, but I'm just going to go for him, and I think that's partly historic, but also he was linked with the move as well. I don't think he went on the pre-season trip. I think they had a bid for him or something. So thank goodness he stayed at the Hawthorn. So I'm going to stick with my instinct and go for him. But Hermansen, you could argue, is a better keeper. But for the purposes of this, the West Brom player gets the nod.
And we'll probably see why when we go to our centre-backs that we're not going to use up any Leicester players. So, Sam, I have gone for my right-sided centre-back is Gutas of Cardiff because it's a bit interesting and a bit fun. And I've gone for Valfas of Leicester, who pretty much marked half the pitch. And Leicester's centre-backs, allowing them to play that big open expanse. Let me know who you've gone for and any other honourable mentions in there.
Let's give honourable mentions. This lad is really unlucky to miss out. I think Ballard at Sunderland deserves a shout. Yeah, gets goals as well. 3 goals. I think he's turned into a very, very good defender. Always liked him. I think he's been a standout for Sunderland. Gutas, I like where Harwood Bellis is getting to now. I think when we're talking about this in May, he could definitely be a shout. And in terms of another player not, challenging at the top of the division, Wesley Hoyt, I thought was worth a
he's a bit of a unit and a big presence, isn't he?
But my 2, and this is quite good fun, I've gone for like the Renaissance story, the Renaissance element here. I'm going for Vestergaard over
he's had the most touches apparently in the division, so I'll stick Vestergaard on your side.
He's missed 9 minutes, I believe, as well, and he was frozen out. Let's not forget. So this is a player that's responded to disappointment and become a mainstay. And alongside him, the old baggies are going to be bonging here, boinging. I've gone for Kitpray, Cedric Kitpray.
Okay.
And again, ever present. You certainly would have thought of him not probably playing a lot this season. I think he's been colossal in these recent victories, these tight victories, these massive games that they've been able to get points out of. And yeah, defensively, they've been absolutely immaculate. And I think in previous seasons, we probably looked at him as being a weak spot in that Albion side. Absolutely the opposite at the moment. He is one of their best players.
I think we're going to agree on the fullbacks. Let me just quickly do a couple of shout outs. Liam Lindsay, Preston, Michael Hellick, Huddersfield, and Alfie Jones of Hull, just in case fans of those teams get cross with us for not mentioning those players. I bet we're going to agree on Kyle Walker-Peters and Leif Davis as the fullbacks, Sam.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've just loved watching. I've tried to like go with the heart, the majority of these, and thought, who have I just actually really enjoyed watching this year? And these two would probably be, I'd possibly say above any other players, any other positions. These two have just been a joy to watch. I mean, Ipswich, they don't function without Leif Davis on the left-hand side. And I know he had that catastrophic game at Ellen Road, but 9 assists, the way they kind of just rely on him to bomb up and down that left-hand side. Broadhead obviously comes in field. He just occupies that whole flank. I know that managers, coaches up and down the country try and replicate that purely because of his athleticism and what he's brought to Ipswich all season. So he's a shoo-in for me. I'll do a couple of others. I can't think of too many other fullbacks, actually. I think the Sunderland pair, actually, again, have been pretty good. Huggins and Hume, I think, are pretty good on the numbers and have had an excellent season. So worth mentioning them. But there's no one really I can think other than Leif Davis for that left-hand side.
And Kyle Walker-Peters, right from that very, very first game of the season, stepping inside into central midfield, just looked levels above, didn't he?
So much so that he's been playing right wing in a couple of the recent games, which I don't think he's had the same effect. And his numbers aren't incredible, are they? I mean, most big chances created, which shows you
the eye test though with him, isn't it?
Yeah, and when he inverts as well. So I'll have a bit of that going on in my team here. He definitely is going to be into midfield for what he can do with with the ball, but also to stop the breaks and stuff like that. He's athletic, but it's his quality on the ball that's really stood out to me dropping down a division. He's been amazing.
We're going to go into midfield, and I had a bit of an Ipswich-Norwich dilemma here because I saw Gabriel Sara in the East Anglian derby, and he was really quiet. So I wanted him to, well, as an Ipswich fan, I didn't want him to blow me away, but I wanted to see that, and I didn't. And I know his numbers are outstanding. I know he's having a great season. So I've gone Ipswich over Norwich. I'm sure I'll get accused of bias there. I've gone for Sam Morsey as my kind of holding midfielder, and purely on the basis that in his previous championship incarnations with Wigan and Middlesbrough, he was just a bog standard, I don't want to say hatchet man, but a midfield sort of jobber, and he's turned into this kind of playmaker. And can you allow me a bit of creative license, Sam, to put Kieran Dewsbury Hall in central midfield? I know he's been much further forward, but I've got to have him in my side. So Morsey's going to sit and Dewsbury Hall's going to bomb on. Those are my two central midfielders, Sam.
Yeah, I got the same. Believe it or not. I'll chuck in a few mentions, shall I? I mean, you could have had his partner, maybe, Luongo. I think he's worth mentioning in dispatches.
Winks.
Sorry?
Winks.
Yeah. If we had carte blanche to get a few more Leicester players in, I think Winks would be in there. We may have to change the system. I think, we don't want to overlook Leeds, and we didn't mention their two central defenders. Rodon, I think, potentially, if he has a good second half of the season, would be in the conversation. So I think Ampadu has been pretty consistent. Sheaf at Coventry, absolutely. I think latterly has been really good. And Sara was in my thought process, but he's not impressed when I've seen them live. And I think getting the balance in Norwich's midfield, I know that's not all down to him, but I think that has been an issue. So Sara scored some brilliant goals. He was great the first kind of 6 weeks of the season, but I don't think latterly he's been as strong. I mean, Morsey's had 4 promotions. Let's not forget that. And we've spoken about teams that have maybe lacked a little bit of nous and character on today's podcast. That's why he's in there for me. Just a leader, consistency, improves players around him, bit of bite as well. The only Achilles heel maybe is that he'd miss a few games for us, wouldn't he, with his suspensions? But yeah, Morsey's got to be in there. You've got to have two Ipswich players in there. And then Dewsbury Hall is from that first game against Coventry. He fell out of favour a little bit, didn't he? I think the manager said that he's trying too hard to be the kind of talismanic Leicester local lad who pulls them through back out of the Championship. And he's probably just modified his game a little bit, tidied it up, and the numbers are incredible, aren't they? And yeah, in terms of an aesthetically pleasing midfield player, he's got it all, 8 goals and 9 assists. So he's in there for me as well.
Here comes some controversy. And this is where you've got to be a bit open-minded if you're a Sunderland fan, because I cannot put Jack Clarke, who I love, over Christ Somerville. So I've gone for Somerville down the left wing. But please be very grown up about this, with the acknowledgement that either would be absolutely fine. I just think Somerville, it's not just the numbers. Obviously, I'm an Ipswich fan, and he absolutely tore my lot to bits in that game just before Christmas. So I've got Somerville down the left over Clarke. Have you done the same?
Well, there's 5 players and there's 4 positions, isn't there? But in my mind, my substitute bench, which I'll go through some of the people that deserve to be mentioned, is stacked with forward players. I mean, it could be 4 from 10, to be honest. On the left-hand side, I don't think there's any debate that Somerville gets in. Yeah, I think you could argue he's, in the running at the moment for the player of the season. 18 goal involvements. If some of the other forward players have been bright, they probably haven't had the consistency. Ruta would be in my thinking as well, but I think Somerville's, his directness, his quality coming in off that left-hand side, he has to be in there, and we have to have a Leeds player in there. Let's get that right, because they've been, pretty good fun, haven't they? Especially going forward.
Down the right-hand side, and obviously, again, you go from experience as an Ipswich fan. I battled this guy last season as well, and I just think he's a brilliant player. I've gone for Whittaker of Plymouth down the right. What say you, Sam?
Oh, well, this is my decision. I am going to stick with you.
Are you going to agree?
I'm going to agree. Yeah, wow. I am. I mean, it's between him and Jack Clarke.
Are you going to invert Clarke?
No, I'm not going to. Clarke's not getting him.
No. And he's a hell of a player. We know that.
That's literally a decision. I mean, you can't split them when you look at the goals and the points that they've been worth for the teams. I just think making the step up a division, probably 13 goals in the promoted side is incredible going. His ability to shoot from distance. I mean, I'm led to believe, reading in the last 24 hours, that he could be on the cusp of a move, Whittaker. So, he is a quality operator. I mean, this is finest of margins, but I'm just going to go for Whittaker. I suppose Clarke, if he's not playing on the left-hand side, he'd have to probably play as a 10 or clearly on the right. That is Whittaker's position, in essence, coming in on his left-hand side. So if I'm arguing the balance of the team, then Whittaker just gets sent over Jack Clarke. Sorry, Clarky.
And again, listen very, very carefully to what Sam Parkin said there. It's the finest of margins. If we don't include a player, that does not mean we don't think they're an incredibly good player. Just to make that clear for the 15th time. Sam, I feel Leeds have the best attacking roster in the division, and I felt that needed to be represented. So I've put Jorginho Rutter as my number 10.
Oh.
And I place number 9, but I put him at number 10.
Okay, I'm just going to come in. You just contradicted what I said about my reasoning for getting Whittaker in. It's very
exact specific. Well, position specific. You might be able to swap my number 9 with my number 10 anyway. So
I'm just going to give you a few people that really were under consideration. Okay, so Connor Chaplin, I think maybe there's been a little drop off there. He was definitely in my thought process if it wasn't for the other two Ipswich guys. Mavididi and Fatawu. I think at the end of the season, if we're doing this again, Mavididi, if he continues as he is right now, he could very easily be in the side. Jonathan Rowe, for his first season in the Championship, I mean, if he continues again, he's so unlucky. A little bit more of a curveball would be Jed Wallace. But again, if they are to be in the playoffs to get promoted, thinking back to what Wallace and my sentiment about him when he was at Millwall, the most important player to any team in the Championship, I used to coin him. I think he's almost like that again at West Bromwich Albion, which just tells you what a special player he is. However, my number 10, for the purposes of this, my third of 4, Sammy Szmodics at number 10.
Interesting. I like that a lot. And we've got a Blackburn player in there as well.
Yeah, and listen, I've not always been his biggest fan, but I think, you know, when you think of the goals they lost through Brereton Diaz and to a lesser extent Dak, 41% of Blackburn's goals have come from Szmodics. He's been incredibly consistent through the campaign. I don't think you can ignore the league's top scorer, especially in a team that's currently 17th in the division. So Szmodics gets in for me.
So, and this can open
You want to tell me a bit more about Ruta?
Well, I thought it was right to, I keep babbling on that Leicester have got the best squad, but Leeds have got the best attacking 4. His numbers are ungodly good. And it's interesting hearing you talk about Chaplin, because Chaplin's a finisher from the number 10 position and a bit of a joiner in, if that's... whereas Ruta, I think in terms of just being a outright baller creator type, and I know he's doing it from the number 9 position with people running past him, but I just felt that I can't sit here and say Leeds have got the best attacking roster and then only stick one of them in there. And I think look, a 35 million euro player in the Championship should be carving out. It's not his fault for the fee, but you would think there's something there. So that was my thinking with that. And hopefully, if I reveal my number 9, Sam, it will make a bit more sense. Yeah.
Okay.
But this does open up a bigger chat because I'm literally sitting talking to, how tall are you?
6'2.5".
So I'm talking to a 6 foot 2.5 former striker who could join in, who scored loads of goals in his career. And I'm looking, and obviously with the Ross Stewart injury at Southampton, there just isn't any. Is there? And I know we'll get a few shouts from a few fans of clubs saying, oh, well, what about him? What about him? I'm thinking of the teams really functioning up at the top of the division. So I've gone for Adam Armstrong of Southampton. Now, I know he's played out on the right a little bit, and he's played number 10 before, but I just feel in my liquid front 4 of Somerville left, Whittaker right, and Ritter and Armstrong doing whatever they're doing. And I think in terms of a finisher, especially in the 1v1s and the kind of quick shots from the edge of the box, low into the corner, I think he's my guy. So he's my number 9, Sam. But do you agree with me? Where are all the 6 foot 2.5 centre forwards gone?
Well, I think you've got a pretty good one at Ipswich in terms of the way that you play in George Hurst.
Who's now not going to play for the rest of the season, for God's sake. Yeah, brutal.
And he's maybe not been unbelievably consistent, but I think, you know, to someone to stretch the play, really mobile, decent touch, he's pretty much decent at everything, very modern day kind of forward. So I would say he'd be in my thinking, but not good enough to get in this team. Piru at Leeds, obviously, good goal output, really good finisher. I suppose a little bit in the mould that you were just talking. Who else? Top of my head, Ryan Hardy, maybe. Maybe scored.
Is he more a runner?
Yeah, Hardy, I think's on the shoulder, and he's and a really good finisher in behind. But no, I'm in agreement with you, mate. I think, the only choice for me was whether you play Szmodics as a 9 or you play Armstrong there. And I'd prefer Szmodics coming from a little bit deeper. So Armstrong gets the nod for me. I think if you spoke to Southampton fans that are there every week, they would say, yes, Walker Peters have been brilliant. There's been some other good players, but I think Armstrong's been their best player. And I think the numbers show you that as well. What 22 goal involvements. You can't ignore that. He played up front, down the middle against Argyle the other day. I have seen him play wide right, but still when he's playing wide right, he makes these brilliant diagonal runs. I think that's part of the reason that he's been deployed there. He makes these brilliant little diagonal runs to get in on goal. So in essence, he's still playing a position that gets him loads of chances, team that creates loads of chances. Yeah, I don't think you can ignore that. And again, my first sub and the harshest decision there was not to get Jack Clark in. You know, I'm looking at it now. There's 5 players of equal quality that have been at an incredible level. So he essentially is going to be on after 50 minutes for me in every fixture. But for the purposes of this, to give it that balance, I don't think you can do better than Whittaker, Smodix, Somerville behind Armstrong. I think that's got a lovely balance.
A quick question to appease our Norwich friends talking about strapping strikers. If he hadn't got injured, do you think we might have been talking about Sargent now in that role?
I don't think he'd have scored the goals maybe that Armstrong has. I don't think he's probably as good a footballer, but yeah, he probably would have contributed loads. He probably would have been equally effective for Norwich in a way because of his pressing, all action style, and the confidence and the belief now that he's been showing, having been at the club a while, understands, you know, the level. So if we're doing a little feature player to watch for the remainder or player to come back from injury and have the biggest impact, he would be right at the forefront of my mind.
Let's stick a manager in. Obviously, I will get accused of bias, but McKenna significantly punching above his weight has to be in the conversation. I think Corberon, but probably not for the team I've selected because I've, selected for maybe a different strategy that wouldn't have been Corberon's strength. I'm just scrolling down, and you've mentioned Sheffield Wednesday a few times. If they're not relegated, he has to be in with a shout, Danny Roll. But I am going to go for Kieran McKenna. This is a League One promoted team, still above 2 points per game, despite having not won in the last 5, sandwiched in between 3 Year One parachute teams. And I think it speaks for itself.
Just the right shout from you, mate. I think you could easily go with Maresca here. The way
if he beats the record, in the end, it'll probably be him, won't it?
Yeah, we're talking halfway through the season. So, yeah, I think when you look at the squads and you look what they're getting out of the squads consistently, yes, Maresca's done brilliantly to put his imprint on this side. You know, a team that, let's not forget, great players, Premier League squad, arguably, but a team that played different styles last year. You couldn't really probably hang your hat on exactly what they were going to be coming into this season, given it had been different under Brendan Rodgers and Dean Smith. Very different, I think. So the players needed the style refined. It was a new style to get it going so quickly. That is astonishing. You have to give Maresca enormous credit. But then Kieran McKenna was in League One last year with some players who you and the majority of Ipswich fans would have been sceptical, would have had the quality to step into the Championship. Haladki, centre-halves maybe. Could Morsey go again? Potentially, that would have been, did they have enough goals? You know, you could look everywhere in that team and maybe questioned whether they were going to be permanent fixtures or whether they were going to have to be replaced. So, yeah, Danny Roll's a good shout, but Russell Martin at the moment, you know, another 10 games, we'll probably be talking about him maybe. But right now, Farker, I don't think you can go that strong on him yet. Right now, has to be Kieran McKenna.
Did you say you had a full bench, Sam?
I got a full bench with no defenders on it. No,
That's why you're not a manager.
I would say, who's my shoe-ins for the bench? Jack Clark, shoe-in. Mavididi, definitely.
You can't have another Leicester player.
Can't have another mess. Okay, so if I had to go curveballs, well, I'd put Ruter in there. I'd have Jed Wallace. I'd have Jonathan Rowe. Ruter, Jed Wallace, Jonathan Rowe. There's 3. I'll have Sarah, Norwich 4. I'll have Gutas 5. I'll have Ballard 6.
Love this.
And my last one would be one more I need. What about Azaz? Finn Azaz.
Get him in there. Right. There you go, guys. Let's go through this. And Sam was right. We did agree on 8. So we agreed on, this is our team of the season so far. We agreed on Palmer of West Brom in goal on the data. We agreed on Walker-Peters and Davis as the fullbacks. We did not agree on the centre-backs. I had Gutas and Fass. Sam had Kipre and Vestergaard. We did agree in central midfield on Morty and Dewsbury Hall. We did agree on the wingers, Somerville down the left, Whittaker down the right, with another 1,000 caveats about Jack Clark being a hell of a good football player. We did not agree on the number 10. I went Rutter and Sam went Smodic, but we did agree our goal scorer, we're not using them as a big runner or a target man, is Adam Armstrong. Now, again, very, very importantly, because you think I'm probably labouring the point, I've done this many times, and we do get lots of emotional, outrage, triggered comments. It's a bit of fun. Yeah, the best thing you can do is not scream and shout at us for not including your favourite player who you've got a poster of on your wall. The best thing you can do is get involved in the comments. Use what formation you like. We've both done a 4-2-3-1 there. And get your 11s down there. Always good to try and shout out different players. Again, if you've got a problem with the system, we don't care. Save your comments and, go and put your team up on Twitter or something. But we want to represent as many clubs as we can rather than just having an entire 11 of year one parachute teams. Sam, I think it went well, don't you?
Mate, I really enjoyed it. I had a little fly through it yesterday. And I was all set on my 11 pretty much. And then I got a little bit stressed this morning and revisited a few things. And you just start thinking, oh, I'm letting down that fan base a little bit.
Oh, you've got to be true to yourself, though, haven't you?
If I've got a few regulars, then you start thinking, well, yeah, I've got too many in from there. So I'm happy with it. Yeah, the centre half's a little bit of an issue. But I think, when you're doing that type of thing, there's going to be little problem areas, isn't there? And you kind of got to go with your heart and, what's important to you. And so I've gone from a couple of 30-somethings who were useless previously and are now magnifique.
Wonderful stuff. Now, if you're looking up in the corner above Sam's head and you've never seen us chatting together before, this is a segment, an excerpt from the Championship Check-In podcast. And you can join us each and every week if you're new to us there. Sam Parkin, obviously, a far more credible talker than myself. A fantastic ex-striker and a brilliant pundit on the TV and on the radio. So do come and join us each and every, we might be changing the day of the week, each and every week with this. And as I suggested, get your 11s down there in the comment. And what did Chris Evans used to say? Don't phone. It's just for fun. I'm going to say don't cry. It's just for fun. We don't hate the players that we haven't included, especially Sunderland's brilliant winger, Jack Clark. Thank you for watching, everybody.